All right.
Welcome to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric, and I'll be your host for this evening, where we will be discussing Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, I think it's called, as far as movies with too many titles.
Sure is.
I'll be your host for this evening. Joining me, first up from the Midwest, he vapes. He actually jewels, I found out tonight. Please welcome Casey to the show.
Hello.
He's doing the thing your teen is doing in math class.
Yes, it's called research.
Getting in trouble for. Next up on the show, coming to you from a very stormy Chicago, Illinois. Please welcome Joe.
What is jeweling?
It's like a specific brand of vaporizer that's a little tiny thing that looks like a USB key, so you can hide it. So it's really big with like teens because they can have it in class and nobody notices.
That's all nicotine right there.
It's to the level of like local TV stations doing stories about it because teachers are all pissed off about it. It's like that's where it is in the lexicon.
But wait, what would you possibly do with that in class? Because doesn't it make smoke?
Well,
yeah.
You just you do it into your, kids do what they
Jesus.
want. That stuff, if you kind of blow it the right way, it dissipates real quickly.
Yeah, you can get away with it if you're clever.
That's what she said.
Yeah.
Hello.
I'm pretty excited tonight, guys, because even while, just like in the theater watching Jurassic World, I had thought to myself, there's going to be a lot of fun things to talk about regarding this movie.
Goddamn right there is.
I should say, too, that Andy is going to join us, but for someone who poses as being so smart, apparently doesn't understand time zones.
Not so good with the time zone.
No, so he's running a little late. So he'll be here later. Or whatever.
I gotta say, I love the Central Time Zone because we've talked about this before. Like everything wraps up by 9 o'clock at night. It's really, it's kind of magical.
I mean, I could get into that. You're talking my language right now.
Yeah, it's great. Like all primetime shows are done by 10, whereas back on the East Coast they're just starting. So
I mean, I don't know who stays up until 11 o'clock. Who does that?
Monsters.
Yeah.
Kids vaping in their high school math.
If I'm still awake at like 10:30, it's basically the equivalent of me being awake at 2:30 when I was 17 years old.
I get full on panic if I'm up past like 10:15.
Yeah.
Like at that point, I start to panic and get nervous, and then I can't sleep. So it just turns into a whole situation.
I'm gonna have to get an extra shot of espresso tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm usually in bed by 10, and then I got to read till like 10:30, and then I'm good to go.
We're at the points where some nights we start the bed process at 8.
Oh, I love it. I get Leslie gets annoyed because I get fired up when we're both tired at 7:30.
Well, there's this funny thing that happens where where when you're married to somebody, you just become the same person after a long time. Like when my wife and I first started dating, I would have to get her to try to stay up until the sun went down, and then that was it. I'd let her pass out, and I would just stay up late, and I'd be on my computer or whatever. And now it's we're just we're like a 90-year-old couple on the same exact schedule, and it's bed by 9, and
Yeah, Leslie's stay-at-home mom, so she sleeps a little later than I do. So pretty much I go to bed, and then she'll just watch TV on her phone. I forgot we were watching some movie the other night, and the couple was having a fight, and the wife turns off the bedroom lights, and the husband's like, I know you're tired, but why do I have to go to sleep? That's pretty much our relationship.
Yeah.
But smartphones, they help you.
Yeah, I'm usually reading on my Kindle now if my wife's asleep.
What a riveting conversation this must be for the listener.
Oh, I know. But if you want to know what it's like after you've been married for 20 years,
Right.
My wife will stay up till like 1 in the morning watching TV, waiting for her sleeping pills to kick in. But if she's asleep and I want to watch Bob's Burgers for 20 minutes, I get yelled at.
Yeah. I love melatonin so hard.
Oh man, you know what's great though, Joe? Waking up in the morning, well rested, getting up and doing stuff. It's the best.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I enjoy like an actual good night's rest, but do you know what I found? The 5 milligram melatonin actually makes me sleep better than the 10.
Oh.
Yeah, the 10 I wake up at like 3 a.m. and I can't fall back asleep, but the 5 just smooth relaxation.
Chasing the dragon with that melatonin.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Speaking of staying up late, Joe, this is actually a great segue. I did not plan. Joe Bob Briggs is coming back.
Yes.
One night only, y'all. I'm very excited about this news. Did you see this, Joe?
No, well, I saw you guys talking about it, but I didn't really follow the details.
So,
It's on Shudder?
Yeah, it's been kind of rumored for a while that he had hooked up with Shudder and they were trying to set something up, and he'd been pretty coy about it because they were they were preparing like their official press release and stuff. So on Friday, July 13th, which is awesome, they are starting a 24-hour movie marathon with Joe Bob Briggs. The great thing is Shudder has tons of great shit. So like he's programming like a 24-hour movie marathon.
Wow.
I would I don't know if it's live, but Joe Bob Briggs looks a little old. He's doing good, actually. Like, here's what I'll say. They released a trailer, and it made me laugh a bunch, and it made me feel really good about it. Like, okay, I think he still got it. He definitely is, like, a little long in the tooth, but he seems like he's still full of piss and vinegar. But to come to think of it, there's no reason why you would have to do it live unless they're trying to do, like, a... Because they mentioned there's... Well, no, they talked about interacting with the Shudder Twitter while it's going on, which is stupid. There should be a live chat, but I don't know. Maybe that's like beyond Shudder. But I guess he could shoot all those it could be tape live to tape and then shown later. So anyway, I don't know if it's live.
I think the live idea is it's on one of their Shudder TV channels.
Well, that's the thing. It's streaming. Like the program itself is streaming. You get one chance to see it. I gotta think at some point they're gonna run it again, or make it available for streaming or whatever. But the idea is it's an event. My point is just because it's live and you got to catch it live doesn't mean his bits are live. Like they could still be shot beforehand. But I'm super excited. There's gonna be a male girl he was talking about today. Like he's bringing all the classics back and.
Nice.
So how long has he actually been doing this for?
Since late 80s.
I want to say that Joe Bob at the Drive-In, which was on the movie channel. Does that sound right, Casey?
Yes.
The movie channel, like if you remember that back in the day.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that started late 80s. I started watching it probably mid to early 90s on, Monster Vision on TNT.
Yeah. I still remember Joe Bob Briggs introducing the eldest of Newell brothers and myself to Frankenhooker one fateful Saturday night.
Right. It's funny because I'm a little younger. It's the same thing with like Mystery Science Theater. Like my version of Mystery Science Theater is like Mike, and it's the late stage stuff that a lot of people don't like, but that's just where I was. And similarly, I'm like late stage Monster Vision was my jam because that's kind of when I was really into it.
Right.
But it was like so formative for me, turning me to a horror fan. There's like a bunch of specific movies I remember seeing in there for the first time, like Phantasm 2. What's the other one? There was some.
Yeah.
The Stephen King thing, Maximum Overdrive. My fandom for that movie is 100% because of Joe Bob. And like I was just at an age where like before you're really going out on Saturday night and partying, because you're younger, you're like a tween sort of. This was just, I looked forward to this so much on Saturday night. And the worst thing was, it was erratic. Like TNT would preempt it a lot for other stuff. Like sometimes it was the show with Gilbert Gottfried. It was just up all night.
That was on USA.
Yeah,
Are you sure that wasn't TNT also? Interesting. So like for whatever reason, I just remember Monster Vision wasn't always on, and it would like really upset me when it wasn't on.
Well, it was a while like they had Rhonda Shear, right, was doing it, and then it would be back to him. I don't know what the...
No, it was Friday nights was Rhonda Shear, and Saturday nights was Gilbert Gottfried on USA.
Okay, interesting. Because in my head, I remember those things like replacing that, but I guess, but whatever. The other thing is lately I realized that my memory is terrible. Like it's funny when you're in your 20s. You still kind of remember everything that happened to you as a teenager for the most part, and then you just hit this wall where I remember nothing from
Yeah.
my like. Oh, hey guys, my dogs are here. Um,
Who let the dogs out?
No, I know that feeling because and it's always goofy shit that I do remember from the teenage years, like watching Rhonda Shear Up All Night, Gilbert Gottfried, Joe Bob, shit like that. Nothing ever important, but that's what makes nostalgia fun.
Interesting. Oh, he's got like a whole filmography too. He was in Great Balls of Fire. Who knew?
Yeah.
well, so I always know him from Casino.
Oh yeah, yes, I do remember in that. Apparently, he was in Face Off also.
No shit.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there you go.
Isn't that
Coming
fun?
back one night only on Shudder. I saw something floating around too that they're giving away like free trials if you use the code. I think it was just the code was Joe Bob or something for 2 weeks, which is like I guess what they are banking on. And I actually like I think I get this about Shudder. I think they're thinking like let's just bring people in to check the service out and they're gonna like it. Like Casey, I know is a reconvert to it. If you're like, I think it's easy to, especially if you checked it out in the beginning and then kind of stopped, it's easy to dismiss it. But there's so much content on there.
Yeah, they've improved a lot, and there's some decent stuff out there. It's a good move on their part.
So yeah, they're just trying to get eyeballs in. One cool thing I think they do is they curate really well. They bring in guest curators like directors, writers, whatever, and they'll make their own playlists of like, oh, here's a bunch of camp slasher movies that I really love, and then they are doing a lot to try to solve the problem of choice, especially like, they have the live channel too. And so I like it.
Their live channels are really what kind of thrills me as far as just nerding out. Cause that really reminds me of back in the day, flipping through cable channels before you had like digital cable and shit. And you found weird movies that way. It's kind of the same way. It's pretty cool because the shit's just streaming and you might get a blurb every once in a while. It tells you what the title is, but you have no control over it. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
It's good. It's great to throw on in the background and just let run.
So there you go.
I might sign back up.
Oh, geez. Whoa.
I just to watch his like the 24-hour feed of him for sure.
Yeah, I gotta see. I mean, listen, I'm not gonna make 24 hours, but I'll watch a movie or two on Friday and then try to pick it up some on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
So I'm excited. The funny thing is they have to make fake commercial breaks, right? Because there's no commercials. So.
I don't know how they're going to do that. It'll be interesting to see.
Well, yeah,
that can also be more interstitials too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but they're going to have to put the breaks in the movie. I get what you're saying.
I mean, that's a funny thing because Casey years ago downloaded me a torrent with like 40 ripped, like super low res old episodes of Monster Vision, and I would just find myself just flipping through and just looking at the interstitials, like not even watching the movies.
Oh yeah, for sure. Do you think they'll do it, or do you think they'll just have them before and after the movie?
No, I think he mentioned that they're going to be cutting into it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Which is awesome.
I think they have to because otherwise it's not Joe Bob.
Well, that's the whole vibe, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think they could easily get away with just doing before and after. But
before we get to the beer here, a couple of trailers I wanted to mention. I saw this Queen trailer for the first time during my movie, and I thought it looked pretty cool.
I'm excited for it.
I gotta say, I think the teeth are kind of stupid, and I don't think it was necessary. But here we are.
I don't know, dude. With those teeth, he looks uncannily like Freddie Mercury.
Sorta. I don't know. I just feel like it would have been better without the teeth because they're distracting.
Yeah, absolutely. It's because you know who he is. It's not like it's like an unknown guy.
Yes.
I forget his name, but
Rami, is it Rami Malek or something? Is that the guy's name?
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Like I agree. Kind of I don't know. Like it's a little distracting for me. I mean, I'm sure you're watching the movie, you'll get used to it. I mean, I agree. I think it looks cool. I think my concern is the trailer plays a little bit off of the like, look what crazy stuff we're doing. Like, ooh, we made like a 9-minute song. Like,
yeah. Part of it for me is like the reason why I think the trailer is so good is that music is so damn good, and it just reminds
it's awesome
you.
The way they cut it,
and it reminds me of like the NWA movie trailer. Like that movie isn't amazing. It's got some cool moments, but what makes that movie is the music is just unreal. It's so good.
For sure. That movie was such a letdown. Like I just felt like it was so glossed over and like.
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I think mostly for the music, and I think that is the biggest problem is how glossed over it is.
It was like you could watch the VH1 behind the music and get more info than you did out of that movie. Like,
yeah,
they made them just seem like these kids from the streets who are just trying to make it big. Like, no, like those guys were doing fucked up shit
Easy,
too.
he
Like,
was
and
kind
that's
of
what I
a
want to see.
yeah. Easy, he was kind of a scumbag.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and
Yeah.
that's what I want to see. Like, I don't need,
Yeah.
I
The
did
whole
think
thing, they seem to be focusing on the fact of his like romantic relationship with the lady in the trailer, which I think is kind of misleading.
I don't know.
Well, I'm sure they'll get into all that. I mean, that's the whole. They have to.
Yeah.
I did, Joe, in the NWA movie. I felt like the Jerry Heller stuff was the best part. Like all the Paul Giamatti stuff,
Yeah.
That's
I mean, you're 100% right. That was like the interesting part where you see kind of that demise, because
minute-
you hadn't heard a ton about that, but like that was,
Well, and
agreed.
of course, because he's really the only dude who wasn't involved in the production, right? Like he's the one who really gets crucified in the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
But anyway,
am I wrong that they've changed the name of that recently? Because it's now labeled as Bohemian Rhapsody, and I could have swore when they first started showing the trailers it was Queen something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I do not know. I do know that today the trailer for The Predator dropped. Guess what, guys? The Predator's giant now, and he's fucking ripped.
He's so mad.
I don't think I've seen that one. I saw an early teaser trailer that had that kid from The Room playing with something he found that was controlling the spaceship out in orbit.
A trailer dropped like hours ago, and it sounded like, this is what I caught from the trailer. Guys, the Predators have conquered the space, and now they're coming here or something, and there's a ship, and then it's the ultimate Predator, and then a giant Predator comes out, and he's like got sick biceps. And then
it's pretty much Brock Lesnar with a mask on.
Courtney B. Vance is in it from Law and Order, right? Isn't that what he's from?
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, getting work. To Joe's point, like the last movie was a little low budget, but had a pretty recognizable cast. I don't really see that here.
I didn't recognize anybody in this. So that's why we were talking, I think, in the pre-show. Like, I wasn't even sure this was supposed to go, into theaters, but I guess it is.
But if I'm being honest, I kind of enjoyed AVP Requiem, and that was like direct to Redbox level. So
this has Jake Busey in it. How can you say it has nothing but unknowns?
It's true.
Do you think Gary Busey was in part 2, right?
Oh yeah. Oh wow. I never put that together, Joe. Nice.
It's like a rite of passage, huh?
It's a Busey family tradition.
Yeah. Got to get those guys in there.
Oh boy. Hey Joe.
Hey.
What are we drinking tonight?
Beer guts.
Jurassic Park, Lost World Kingdom, World Heart Kingdoms. We're picking back up where the previous one left off. What's his name there from Parks and Rec heads back out to the island looking for his best friend Blue. And if him and Blue sat down, I think they would obviously drink a beer from the good folks at Blue Point Brewing Company out in Patchogue, Long Island.
Oh.
That's in New York. This is their blueberry ale. So it works twice. This is a delicious summer beer, but they actually produce it year-round. So unlike a lot of fruit beers, this actually isn't a wheat, it's an ale. But it's definitely sort of a crisp golden ale, as you might call it. So think like a nice summer beer. I'm trying to think what you could equate this to. Not like a Budweiser or anything. Like, it's got a little more maltiness to it, but not a ton. But it does have like sort of that blueberry flavor in it. So it's really great during the summer months, but you can get it year round if you want to just enjoy summer in the middle of winter, or, just fuck with your taste buds. Comes in about 4.5% alcohol, so not very high. Again, you might call this a lawnmower beer, because you could drink this while you're mowing the lawn out there on a hot summer day.
I really enjoy a nice blueberry from time to time, Joe. It's a delicious fruit.
It's not bad, yeah. New Jersey, the number 2 producer of blueberries in America.
No way. What's number 1? Maine?
Number 1 is Maine, but most of their blueberries they produce are wild. Which you can't cultivate. Like, they just kind of grow wherever and they harvest them.
Fascinating. I ate delicious blueberries today, in fact.
I love blueberries. They are just great.
They are.
And my hometown is known for the Blueberry Festival. Why, I don't know. They have like 2 blueberry patches in town that I know of.
I really like the belligerent tone you just said that in. Blueberry Festival.
We have a town like that near us. They have a strawberry festival and an apple festival and a chocolate festival, different times of the year. None of which is actually produced in that town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like when I think of a fine apple, I think of the Midwest.
Yeah, you think of Long Grove,
Yeah.
Illinois, which is
Joe, for the first time in many, many months, I'm actually drinking on the show tonight.
What do you
I'm
got
drinking
there?
a Down East double blend unfiltered cider.
Oh, that
So-
does sound nice. Is that like a local or?
Yeah, it's made out of East Boston and delicious. They do this unfiltered, which is I'm finding I'm a big fan of. And this double here is 7.5%.
Oh wow,
So
there you go, buddy.
Packs a punch.
There you go.
And I'm using my slap koozie from Micor's Own. It's like a slap bracelet.
Uh-huh.
And it's
Nice.
Oh, that's
it's-
interesting. I
it's-
don't know. What is the brewery on there? What is the?
it's
Odd
wood,
Otter.
Odd Otter because I'm an otter.
Oh,
You know,
I get
it's
it.
a very thoughtful
Adorable.
gift.
I've never seen one of those. I didn't realize they made
I
that.
didn't either. She gave it to me at the Halloween people meetup.
Well, that's nice.
So there you go.
I
what is it?
myself have been drinking an imported Terrapin High Five that I brought back from Tennessee.
Oh,
Yeah,
It's all right.
yeah. To be honest, I don't want to poop on you. I'm not a huge fan of those guys.
It's not like blowing my socks off or anything, and it's not bad. But my most thought was I should have picked up the High Lie that I saw in the same cooler. So
Oh,
Which-
you can get that in Illinois if you cross the border. Terrapin, I think they're based out of Atlanta. They're either owned by Miller Coors or Anheuser-Busch at this point. Fuck those guys. Anyway, bluepointbrewing.com is their website, and definitely check them out. Great, like one of the beers that I miss from the East Coast because we don't get them out here, but they distribute, I think, a decent amount, and everything they put out is usually really good. Their toasted lager is one of my favorites, so give them a go if you can find them.
all right. Thank you for that, Joe.
Hey, thank you.
That's the beer recommendation, or as some people might call it, beer guts with a Z. Something you get every week here on the show. Let's take a quick break so that we can discuss Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And here we are. Andy,
Yeah.
hi.
Oh wow, calling from a wind tunnel.
Yeah. You got a fan on there, buddy?
Just a second.
You
Son of a bitch.
sweet baby
Oh,
Jesus. You're
good
CCing the fuck out of this show.
Lord. Oh, weird. That sounds better when your fan is off.
Mm.
So weird.
Wait, everybody go around the room and then we'll see.
Oh. Hey, Andy.
Hi. Is that better?
Andy,
What?
can you? So tonight's episode, we changed subjects. We're now devoted entirely to how time zones work. Could you help us out with that?
Oh my God. When I got this text from Joe, I was legitimately excited because I was like, I get to skip the part of the show that I'm terrible at, and I don't have to worry about introductions. I don't have to
Okay.
be funny.
Well, if that was the case, you could have just warned me and just said, "Hey, bro, I'm gonna show up a half an hour in because I'm Mark now."
Well, now I've officially appreciated Mark's strategy, his command of logistics, and I will continue to embrace that while telling you.
Andy, buddy, your beard's looking good tonight. It's very shaped. It's
Thank
like
you.
it's
Yeah.
very shaped very well.
It looks very well groomed.
I've been
tonight.
trying to cultivate that on my own end, and it's not easy. You got to keep up with it.
Well, guess what, fellas? Andy added a line item in his monthly budget for haircuts, so now he's living large.
I tried.
Ooh.
I tried to have. I got a haircut recently and tried to have my regular barber touch up my beard, and became quickly apparent that she did not know what she was doing. And instead of saying that to me, just dove in. And I was like, "Oh God, stop what you're doing! Oh my God, stop it!"
Have you ever had anybody spray hairspray on your beard before they cut it?
No, that's fun though.
What?
Yeah, that happened to me once, and I was like, "Are you sure you're supposed to do that?"
I mean-
and they were like, "Yeah."
I'm not gonna lie. I kind of want to fly out to wherever you are to go to your guy because you look incredible.
Yeah.
This guy's good. He's a big hockey player. You boys like hockey?
No, but I can fake
On
it.
occasion.
No.
I grew up watching football. I can pretend to be into sport.
You guys are from the north, right?
Yeah.
I enjoy
Sure.
the Hawks.
The
Oh
Bruins.
God, it's so hot in here now.
So, guys, suck it up, Andy. We're here to talk about Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. This is a movie directed by a man named J.A. Bayona, who is wearing a bow tie in his IMDb picture. I just want to point that out. This guy
A
directed.
Spaniard.
This guy directed The Orphanage.
Oh.
He also directed some episodes of Penny Dreadful, and then this. So there you go.
Got him.
Also, a movie called The Impossible about a tsunami and Naomi Watts running away from that tsunami.
Never heard of that.
And prescient to Sophistical, he did this movie called When a Monster Calls with Liam Neeson as a tree monster.
Ooh.
We kind of talk about it in our latest episode.
That sounds kind of good. Are either of those movies good?
I have not seen either of them.
Okay, thank you.
To be fair, the bow tie picture does look like he's at some sort of formal
Oh
event.
yeah, no,
like...
I'm not saying. I'm just pointing. I didn't listen, Joe. You're the one who made the judgment call in your head.
Oh no! Well, when you said it, I went and looked, and I expected something like douche in a fedora.
Oh, I
like,
know. I
and-
could tell by your tone of voice.
Yeah, but no.
An early era JT is what we're talking.
I know when
Yeah.
you're judging someone before you even say it, Joe.
All right. I take it back. All right.
All right,
He's
guys.
a great guy.
I'm gonna do my best schnars here and try to synopsize this bad boy here. Jurassic World. This is a franchise in which Chris Pratt, the Star-Lord himself, has trained raptors to follow his commands. He's imprinted on them from birth and raised them up to be intelligent and to follow his commands. That was a big part of the plot of the first movie, right? At the end of the first movie, Jurassic World goes to shit, blows up. We all escape from the island, whatever. Big fights with dinosaurs. Beginning of this movie, we find out that basically that's kind of still the status quo. Like, everybody's fled the island. There's still dinosaurs on it. They're contained, but so nobody's really known what to do about them. And in the meantime, there's been a fight that's built up around this sort of a kind of animal rights fight. So we see a very brief picture of Bryce Dallas Howard, because they have to establish this, but it's literally 15 seconds of the movie. She works for like a PETA-like dinosaur organization that wants to rescue the dinosaurs. And then there's another organization that's like, no, we actually see Jeff Goldblum testifying in front of a Senate committee being like, yo, bro, we need to kill these dinosaurs because chaos theory and nature finding a way and stuff, and you got to kill them. So you got these two sides. The government says, we're not going to act, whatever. They get Bryce Dallas Howard gets a phone call from somebody, and she ends up getting invited out to this big mansion where we find out that, surprise guys, because the plot needed it, John Hammond, who's the mogul from the original Jurassic Park, he had a partner, like a silent sort of partner that worked with him, that had a falling out, but he still had a stake or whatever in all this stuff. And he was involved with Jurassic World. And he's played by this guy. I don't know this guy's name. He's a really famous character actor. I know him because he played... What's his name?
James Cromwell.
Okay, I know him because he played... This is really weird, but he played George H.W. Bush in the Bush movie with Josh Brolin. And he was also on 24 for one terrible season, which...
Let's see, what was that show with the guy who played Dexter, where they were in a mortuary? He was on that.
6 Feet Under?
Yes, yeah. He was towards the end. He played the mother's like crazy boyfriend who's like made like a bunker, and
weird.
like eventually just went nuts and moved into it.
I never saw that show.
It was like the mole man from Kimmy Schmidt.
A little
there you
bit,
go.
but no.
So he calls her up and he says, look, we made a lot of mistakes. Maybe what we did was wrong, but now these dinosaurs are here, and it's wrong to let them die. Oh, I'm sorry. They're going to die because the volcano on Isla Nublar is going to explode and kill the dinosaurs. So there's this urgency. So he says, all right, we got a team together. We want to go rescue the dinosaurs. I bought this other island. I set up a sanctuary. We just need to transport them, but you know the island better than anybody, and guess who also knows the island better than anybody? Chris Pratt. So she goes,
Obviously.
Chris Pratt is doing his best, like, movie version of I'm living on a mountain, I'm building my own house, I'm drinking beer, I'm just like, I'm chilling.
Off
And
the grid.
In a scene with almost no narrative tension whatsoever, she's able to very easily convince him to go with her. So he goes with her along with like a team of nerds and doctors and scientists or whatever to go to the island. This is the point at which, like, we should mention we're gonna drop spoilers. I think we're gonna kind of talk about the first half of the movie first, and then there's way more spoilers in the second half. But just like, here's your warning: plot points for Jurassic World, here be coming. So they get to the island, and there's of course, like always, Andy. There's always some sketchy. At least in this Jurassic World spin-off series, there's always some sketchy paramilitary force.
Oh my god.
Who's
Do you
helping
mean the
them
walking
out?
Frown?
Who's helping them out, and he's run by
Ted Levine.
yeah, what's his name in Silence of the Lambs?
Buffalo Bill?
Buffalo Bill. He's run by
Jamie Gumb.
It's run by old fat Buffalo Bill, like who's so unrecognizable now. You only could recognize him by his voice, and it took me an hour to do it.
Because if you're running a special ops, you want to get this 95-year-old man.
Exactly.
I love Ted Levine so much, but the corners of his frown are like so far down that I don't know where his cheeks begin and his mouth ends.
So the first hour of the movie is basically trying to rescue the dinosaurs, then trying to escape the island. Then at that point, we start getting plot twists, which we're gonna go over more here in a little bit. But essentially, spoiler alert, there's, not everything is as it seems, and some of the motives are not maybe as pure as thought. And so that becomes the conflict for the second half of the movie that goes places that you just couldn't possibly imagine if you haven't seen it. So let's do it here. Round table. Andy, you are a Jurassic World 1 hater.
Yeah, I do not like that movie. No.
Okay. Cool. What'd you think about this one?
No, okay. So like to go into it a little bit, there's something about that movie that I'm going to say a lot of stuff about blockbusters that is inherently true, and that is what a blockbuster is. And I, just can't get over it with that movie. And that's like every moment, every twist and turn in there, it just felt so manufactured. It felt so rote. And I feel like they just took all of the charisma away from Chris Pratt and just made him this like hunk of meat that's very bland. I wasn't showing up for that movie at all.
Okay, so what do you think of this one?
This one, same thing, but because it has so much weird shit in it, I kind of like it better.
It's real weird.
I kind of like this one better.
It's real weird. I will grant you that.
Yeah. I mean, it still suffers from the same problem, right? Where Chris Pratt is playing like not a character. He's essentially just like a vehicle in which they're moving him from place to place. He's just like a pawn in this movie. And that goes for like all of these.
He's a set of pecs.
He's a set of pecs, which is fine. I'm okay with that.
They're nice. They look good.
We need to vote on our Chris's later. Don't forget. But there's just no character in here to like hang your hat on whatsoever. And the so-called plot is essentially just like a setup of generic action sequences we've seen before until the second half happens. And then that's when things get interesting.
You know what I might argue about, and this actually just occurred to me with this Chris Pratt thing. I think that both of these movies are actually, like it's actually way more about Bryce Dallas Howard, and he's basically like the sexy arm candy role, right? But I think it's just that because it's Chris Pratt, and you think to yourself like, he like just because of history, right, and like tradition, it's like, oh, he's the lead, but really like he's not the lead in that first movie. The whole movie is about her and her nephews and her sister and running the park and like all this stuff, right? I'm not saying that's a good thing because you still have a basically empty vessel of a character, which I totally agree with.
But yeah, no, I think that's a really good point because that's even how this film starts. Like she's like our lead character we kind of are introduced to the soonest.
He's almost like the hunky sidekick or something.
Right.
A little bit.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's still playing the guy every teenage boy thinks he's going to turn into, and I'm just not into that.
I was watching this movie thinking like, I wonder if I could get some steroids. That's all I need. And then
You probably could.
And then I'm Chris Pratt. Yeah, I'm an adult. I can figure that out, right, Joe?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just go to GNC. I gotta imagine those guys there can hook you up.
I bet Andy's barber has a guy. Just saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Casey, what about you?
I identify more with Chris Pratt's workout regimen from Parks and Rec, just for the record.
Cheese.
When he was fat and schlubby and funny. This movie, I enjoyed the first movie well enough for what it was, but I don't know that I was necessarily excited for another movie, and I don't know that I really wanted one. And so now all of a sudden we have one thrust upon us, and I wasn't excited at all. I got into this movie, and we've talked about it a lot. The first half of this movie I thought was pretty cool as far as, just goofy action sequences with the volcanoes exploding and stuff like that. Then in the second movie, where I agree with Andy, it got weird, which probably made it more interesting than more of the standard shit. At the same time, it was executed so bad, I was just kind of bored to tears with it. Toby Jones was terrible, which is sad because he's usually pretty good.
He's so bad. He's so bad.
I think he's chewing the scenery just the right amount.
But he's not good enough to do that. I feel like he's a dude who's a really good character actor given the right material. He's not Al Pacino, man. He's not Nicolas Cage. You can't just let him run wild,
Yeah,
Sure.
he needs some boundaries. And I didn't like the big bad in this movie. I thought he was kind of ineffective and dweebish, maybe. I don't know. Everything in the second half of this movie didn't really fit for me.
Yeah.
The last part of this, when they wrap it up, it gives me a little bit of hope for a third movie, but at the same time, I don't know that I really want to see it. I don't care. Is kind of how I walked out of this movie. I don't really care where they go with it.
DVD quote from Casey. I don't care.
Yeah.
Joe.
Who is the big bad?
Oh, well, the assistant guy, which we'll get to.
All right. So the original Jurassic Park is like top 10 movie for me. Like I love it. Like
Really? Wow. Oh, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought you were telling me Jurassic World was a top 10 of all time for you, which I thought might be a stretch.
I mean, like that music, like alone, like I get fired up every time I hear it. Like I love it.
I agree. Yeah, totally.
The sequels I was not, a huge fan of. I don't know if I ever even saw the third one from start to finish. But when Jurassic World rolled out, I was legitimately excited and I loved it. Like I don't disagree with anything Andy says, but I love those kinds of movies. Just like
he's pretty wrong about it. It's fine.
I mean, you guys and the millions and millions of people that saw it multiple times, I think, yeah.
I just think like it's ridiculous summer fun, like which is in some ways a lot of what the first one was. Like this definitely kind of notches it up a bit, but like to me, the fun of it and kind of leads into why I was a little disappointed by this one. Like the fun is going back and seeing what they've done with the island. And to me, like these movies kind of live and die with the setting of where, pretty much you're watching dinosaurs like fuck shit up, and seeing them do that in like an amusement park type setting is a lot of fun to me. Like, I think they even maybe in Jurassic World did it even better than the original, because you do kind of see that full amusement park. Like there's people actually paying and, doing the actual rides. Whereas the first one's kind of just like the setup to what could be. So I loved it. Like I loved everything about it. And this one I was very excited for. Really enjoyed when, they kind of ramped things up. They got to the island. Like the cool part to me is like seeing the aftermath of the first movie where like, you see like the gift shops and stuff, and there's still stuff in there, but it's getting like overgrown. Like to me, that super fun. And then they leave the island and go to this old guy's house and have like a dinosaur auction and like, oh yeah, like we were talking about it over email, and I had kind of blocked out the whole second half. The wife,
because it's like it's ponderous. It just so unbelievably bizarre.
It's just like I was watching and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, because originally I had thought that this movie was taking place like they leave the island and they go to like a city or something, which sounded fun to me. But then like we just end up in like this old guy's house. Who we'll get to the logistics of it. It's ridiculous, but it really kind of bummed me out.
Yeah, I'm with you, Joe. I love I mean, like Jurassic Park, forget about it. I'm like that is a top 10 all-time movie for me. And the funny thing is, watching this movie got me thinking about it again, seeing all the kids in the theater. The original movie actually sparked like this huge love of dinosaurs for me, like above and beyond entertainment, just like the science aspect of it, and it gave me. And I think that did that for a lot of people, like our age, like. Sure. Just really gave you an appreciation and because you were seeing them alive kind of for the first time in a real tangible way. I really, really enjoyed Jurassic World. I thought it was a great combination of super fun action, like summer popcorn fun, but also I was way in for all of the like nostalgia whoring that the movie does. I thought it did that stuff pretty well. Like that's what I wanted from that
Oh
movie.
my god, the end where like the T-Rex comes out and starts fighting the other, like I legit was like
Or
cheering
you
in
know,
the
like
theater.
even the subtler stuff, like they find the old garage with the old
Yep.
fake buggies
Oh, yeah.
in it or whatever. I just thought it was great, and the action was fucking awesome. It's funny. They carry, you know, like I agree that Chris Pratt is like a little weak in that movie, but it's just fun. It's fun, and I actually watched it again on video with my wife, and she like loved it. She was like way in on it. So I was like pretty excited for this movie. I think that aside from like there's like a 45-minute chunk of this movie because I actually think the first 10-ish minutes, 15 are rough because they're just trying to get so much setup in. Like this whole thing with Bryce
They gotta
Dallas.
explain why Bryce Dallas Howard is with a bunch of Apple TV commercial people.
This whole Bryce Dallas Howard like dinosaur PETA thing literally gets 30 seconds of screen time because they need to set that up to get her to the mansion, and then it's never mentioned again. You know, the whole like Jeff Goldblum, and nobody's mentioned this yet, but like he shows up for 60 seconds in this movie, which is hot BS. He's at 30 seconds in the beginning testifying before Congress with like some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard. For Jeff Goldblum, what is it? Jeff Goldblum in that first movie has some of the best, most iconic lines.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
wrote just nonsense drivel for him to say in this movie, and it sucks because he
Eric,
could
will you permit me to read a line of the dialogue?
Yeah, of course, sure.
I wrote this down feverishly when he said it when we were first introduced to him. Change is like death. You don't know what it looks like until you're standing at the gate. What does that mean?
Like, my thing is, there's 3 writers in this movie. I just looked on IMDb. One of those writers' job should have just been to sit in a room for 6 months and come up with awesome shit for Jeff Goldblum to say in this movie, and they clearly didn't do that. And he's gone for the rest of the movie. He's not mentioned or talked about. And then during the finale, where they're setting up the next sequel, they go back to this testimony and they show more dumb stuff. So that's not even my biggest complaint. It's just a thing about the beginning that I just remembered. But once you get through the rocky setup and then get to the island, there's a 45-minute chunk that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
the
the volcano
island-
stuff's awesome.
The island is blowing up. There is hot magma, Andy, like floating around the
Magma.
island.
Liquid
The
hot.
dinosaurs are trying to kill them, but also the lava's trying to kill everybody, and so it's like this great 3-way tension. It is awesome, and it all culminates in this scene, like similar to the herd scene from the first movie, but it's everybody running in the same direction away from like the island exploding, and then they jump off a cliff, and there's lava flying down, and the dinosaurs are jumping off the cliff like lemmings. They crash in the water. There's a water rescue. Literally in the scene, I'm like giddy during the scene because I'm like, dude, they are nailing this movie right now. And then everyone leaves the island on the same boat, and they look back on the island, and there's a lone, sad brontosaurus getting consumed by the ash and crying, and they're all like, even the paramilitary dudes are all stopping like, dude, that's really messed up. And then there's almost like a fade to black, and then you should just leave because that's it. Like, and then, but I had this really distinct moment of panic because, you know, you see enough movies like we do and you really get a good internal clock of how long it's been. And I'm like, oh, dude, it's only been an hour. And that should have, like, what I just saw should have been the finale of the movie. And now they're leaving the island. And I literally had a panic attack in the movie theater. And, like, then they spend a legitimate hour on a boat with almost nothing happening. There's, like, a couple of gag things, like this blood drawing scene or whatever. But it is so boring. There's no dinosaur action. There's almost nothing.
Well, no, the one dinosaur there is like lying about to die on a table.
They're all sedated.
Yeah.
Right? So and then finally, then we get to the auction scene, which I want to get more of your guys' thoughts on this like transition and all this stuff. But then we get to the auction scene, which we'll break down. And then there's about 15 minutes at the end where you're in like a rich dude's house. There's like a raptor in a house, and it's kind of nuts in a fun way. And finally, I'm like, okay, dude, like Jurassic Park. Okay, I get this, even though this is dumb as hell to get here. but
Home Alone, Cretaceous Christmas.
just so disappointing because to me the fatal flaw of this movie is why you didn't. It's like they overthought it. It's like they thought they had to do more than they needed to. All they needed was this kind of inspired thing of the island blowing up, and that's it. That's your whole movie, dude. You could have kept the stuff about saving the dinosaurs. You could have kept like the double cross and the betrayal, but just way simplified it down. Like that's all you needed to do, and then make it about escaping the island. Bam, you've like outdone the first movie, and they stumbled so hard on this movie. It's like unbelievable to me.
Or don't like at least don't go to a fucking house. Like go to Los Angeles. Go someplace and let me watch dinosaurs like rip shit up. Like don't
the idea that you go from an exploding island to like a Harry Potter mansion and that is your finale. It just
well, what's sad is the initial setup that they had that they were doling out to us was that they knew this volcano was erupting and it was going to kill the dinosaurs. And this guy Mills was saying that they have a plan to move them. They have another island that they can move them to as a sanctuary. And you could play into the plot that something happens. You can have the double cross, then the dinosaurs get out into the real world and everything on the way to that island. They never had to go to the damn house.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, like as we're describing this, I'm starting to realize that we basically just watched The Lost World, except with some weirder stuff in it, right? Because there's this idea of like going back to the island. They're double crossed by some paramilitary people. They take dinosaurs.
That's number 2, The Lost World.
Yeah. The immediate.
So
sequel.
after Jurassic World, I was in like a very Jurassic Parky mood. So my wife and I watched it. It is very dumb, like this movie. I think it's kind of enjoyable, but yeah, like it's just so dumb, and they went straight over the top, like real fast.
Right. Similar characters. You have like the paramilitary guy who's like collecting trophies in this movie, and the guy that wants to hunt the T-Rex in Lost World. Like it's kind of hilarious how similar they match up with one another. And I think like I don't know, to kind of like talk a little bit about the legacy of the original Jurassic Park in comparison to this movie. I know at this point we're kind of doing apples and oranges because like what, it's almost 30 years, a little less than that. Like how long has it been?
Not that
25,
25,
93,
like
right? So 25.
Yeah, it's like 93. So it's like, yeah, it's been like a quarter of a century. So filmmaking technique, what makes a blockbuster, all of that stuff's changed a lot.
Yeah, 93. Jeez.
Can you believe that shit?
Could you not say quarter of a century? That would be.
I thought you were. For a second, I thought you were cursing at Casey for vaping.
No. I've never heard anything in my lifetime be referred to as a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
Like
You've been
I could do without
alive.
that.
You've been alive for almost 2/4 of a century, Joe.
We're all about to have our 3/4 life crisis. That'll be great.
I'm about to have one on the show.
But no, so I was thinking about, what about that movie works, other than the fact that like, Steven Spielberg is a seasoned director, so on and so forth. And I was thinking about how they present the dinosaurs to you. Obviously, it's new technology, but it's also very clean, right? Like, there's not a lot of texture. It's very much like we've texturized this dinosaur, and there's some actual physical element in the world around it.
It holds up, though, right? Like that's
that's
thing
what I'm saying. That's the thing that's still like, I still watch that scene, the Brontosaurus scene, and it's still like effective.
You still feel the awe.
Oh yeah, for sure. Whereas like here, it's so obsessed with particulate and what the computers can do, which is what makes that volcano scene so awesome. Because there are some like really cool shots in it, and there's a handful of really awesome tableaus in the film in general. Specifically like the final dinosaur fight, how that ends, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But like there's this kind of insistence on creating a verisimilitude in a computer that completely like throws me off watching this. Like I don't feel that same kind of response to the dinosaur because there's so much shit involved around it.
You're gonna have to explain to me and Joe what verisimilitude means.
Oh, thank God.
Like okay, so like a really good way of describing this.
I didn't realize it was in this movie.
Andy, in case you forgot, this is not sophisticated cinema.
It's Rihanna's stage double.
Verisimilitude.
But no, so like a really good example of this is the Brontosaurus scene when it's like walking out on the dock, right? It's like it's pretty impactful, and how they create this landscape in which lava is boiling in the sea and there's smoke and there's like debris flying everywhere. They're trying really hard to create this sensation of like an actual disaster happening right in front of your eyes. They're trying to increase the reality of it. But while watching that, I definitely had that same response you had, where like you feel kind of sad, and it's like very kind of like affecting because it's a creature that inspired that initial awe of the first movie. Now we're watching that creature being tortured by this film, and there's something about that that like is it's something.
Well, what I mean,
You
but what
know?
it gets, so there's a couple things. One, like you're never gonna recreate that original film, and I think that the smart thing about the original Jurassic World and the moments that work here is it's not necessarily trying to, right? Like you're never gonna recreate Spielberg at his peak. You're never gonna recreate the part of the awe of that movie was the way that he used the technology to convey this really sublime thing, right?
Right.
But
And performances, like Sam Neill and Laura Dern's reactions to
oh
it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like, but when you're talking about like the torturing of, you know, that's your word, like torturing the Brontosaurus, like killing him off. Part of it is that this movie actually has this like crazy heavy-handed animal rights message, which is, listen, man, I love animals. I want them to have rights, but it just and the original film, you know what? The original film had a little bit of that, but it was way more about, it wasn't necessarily about the rights of these individual animals. It was about respecting nature and almost more like in a religious sense, the boundaries you've crossed by trying to play God. Like that was the moralizing.
Right.
Well, it's very much the Jeff Goldblum character, right? Because his whole thing was like, just
Yeah.
because we can, should we?
And it's
like,
and it's
they
written
played on that.
It's written so well and delivered by an actor like Goldblum. So I don't think it feels heavy-handed in the first movie. I think it
No,
feels
not at
like
all.
it feels like a natural part of the plot. But this movie
It feels like
is
something that character would say.
This
Yeah.
movie
Yeah.
is literally like Bryce Dallas Howard is in Dinosaur PETA, and she's like, you know, there's just these long soliloquies at certain points in the movies trying to get these points across, and it leads. I mean, the whole finale, the whole buildup is all about that question of, like, the rights these things have, and the movie really wants you to feel sympathy for them, and that's part of what this Brontosaurus thing is about.
Mhm.
But
What-
it does it in a way that doesn't leave me feeling good. It leaves me
Yeah.
feeling
Well,
depressed.
Branching off that discussion, though, let's get into spoiler territory here, and we'll throw out some the spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen it yet, you want to skip ahead out here. Getting into it, then going off of that same talk about how, you know, with the decisions that they're making and making you feel for the dinosaurs and whatnot, and that they have rights and yada yada yada, they throw in this side plot of this invented partner for Hammond from the original movies, who is the guy that was in Babe, Pig in the City, who is all of a sudden a big partner and you know, like a really integral part to all of the Jurassic Park happening, and he happened to clone his daughter, which they throw out as a big reveal.
Whoa, dude! Like,
And then they,
big spoiler alert for that one.
I
Jesus
told
Christ!
you, I said
I
spoiler
know, but
alerts.
like,
He teed it up.
you gotta like rub it a little bit first before you do that.
Come on. But we get to the end of this movie. The final one is the biggest eye rolling part for me, where we have to see where all these dinosaurs are trapped in this house, and there's I can't remember what gas they said. There's it's escaping, and they're in danger, and who's
Oh,
going
that's
to
a
let them out?
cyanide.
It's death gas.
Yes.
As you do.
It's just canisters of fucking cyanide hanging out in this house. Fucking-
Which doesn't
Yeah.
surprise me at all. Like, pretty much you've got the Silver Spoon's house on, like, crack with this place.
Oh
It's
yeah.
It's like the Miss Basley Frank Wilder museum.
They could. This house is so big that it could have a star-studded auction with all sorts of millionaires showing up in the, you know, their private vehicles and everything, and the old guy upstairs doesn't know.
Yeah, we need to talk about the dinosaur.
So okay, so what happens is so it's the old guy, the former Hammond partner. He has a younger dude below him, kind of running his business. And what we find out is that this younger guy's been up to all kinds of shenanigans behind the guy's back, and he's essentially the old guy really thinks they're trying to rescue the dinosaurs. What the young guy wants to do is steal the dinosaurs so that he can like sell them to rich people. It's this very vague, like
Yeah.
pretty nonsensical plot. So
And he's like hired an entire army to help him with this.
and built a whole dinosaur ass facility underneath this guy's house, and he didn't notice because he's like
He
like-
built,
he's-
he built a Sotheby's, but for like auctioning dinosaurs.
like he's bedridden, the guy, the former partner, and so he like doesn't, but he doesn't know until his daughter tells him about it.
What's all that construction going on? Are
Yeah,
you building a dino auction house?
Do you feel that vibe?
No.
Yeah,
No.
like not to mention they're in the woods, so some of that shit probably would have been had to there would have been a trail of trucks and like helicopters for miles running into that place.
The lighting in here is really good. Are you building a catwalk?
We find this out kind of during the second act where we're kind of traveling there, and then when we get there, he's dealing with what's his character actor name? The short guy who's terrible in this movie. What's his name?
Toby Jones.
So he is like representatives of like he represents the rich people. Like they're his clients, right? And so he convinces Toby Jones to bring the rich people in for this auction. The dinosaurs get to the house or whatever. In a very James Bond villain way, they put Chris Pratt and Bryce Dallas Howard in a cell, and this guy who's running the company literally says, like, the paramilitary guy's like, what should I do with him? He's like, well, nobody, as far as anybody knows, they blew up on the island. So, and then in reality, his next words would have been, shoot him in the head. But in movie land, he just goes, so ... and the scene ends. Yeah. And and they just leave him in there like, what could go wrong?
So you'll get back to me later on what we should do with them?
I will say I really enjoyed the bit with Chris Pratt tricking the helmet-headed dinosaur to get him out, because at this point it's the first dinosaur action we've had in like an hour of this movie.
Yeah. But it's like dumb, like Scooby-Doo dino action. Like, I agree, it was, clever, but it didn't have the same sort of like punch as all the other stuff we've
seen. Dinosaur burst through the wall and they unmask it and it's James Cromwell. I would have gotten away with it if it wasn't for you pesky kids.
So basically, then we get to this auction scene. They literally have somehow built, like Joe said, like an auction house for dinosaurs. It's like, have you ever seen Taken? It's the scene where they're trying to sell the white slaves in Taken, right?
Yeah,
and it's the exact same thing. They literally have the dinosaurs in cages on a roller and it rolls out and they're like, 2 million. 3 million. Like, no man. First of all, it seems like a dinosaur would cost way more than what they're paying.
They were really underbidding this thing.
Second of all,
I mean, the first few dinosaurs were kind of the lower end. Like.
Second of all, we had like a 20.
I bought you ankylosaur.
We had a 20-minute conversation over email today about what the hell these rich dudes were gonna do with dinosaurs.
The logistics of keeping your own dinosaur and how you go about doing it.
You gotta transport it. You gotta keep like it's built up like they're sort of supposed to be weapons, but these weren't like military leaders. They weren't like presidents. They were just straight up like literally the most like schnarzy rich character dudes you could put in a movie.
You got like Hugh Hefner buying a Stegosaurus.
It's so
Schnars is in there buying Jim Bob a Triceratops.
And then they bring out the ultimate creation, guys. They took the DNA. Okay, so first of all, as long as we're talking about plot holes, they needed to rescue the dinosaurs from the island, but they have the DNA of all of the dinosaurs. And the best they can come up with is like, well, money is time. But they've spent, I don't know, years building this facility under this house just to have an auction. It seems, So, like I'm saying, like I know it's stupid to break this down, but I just feel this way with modern movies. And I don't know if it's because we turn a more critical eye to modern movies than we did movies in the past. But I feel like sometimes in movies like this, zero fucks are given about even the tiniest scintilla of making something sound logical. And I don't mean plausible, right? Because like I can suspend my disbelief, but you have to give me enough of an in-world motivation for me to go like, okay, I get why this rich dude wants to buy this dinosaur, but you get nothing. Like you get nothing at all. So they unveil the Indoraptor, which is the DNA from Blue mixed with the DNA from what was the thing called in the last Indominus Rex or whatever?
Yeah, I think
and it's just it's a big ass raptor basically that's kind of scary looking because it looks like the other thing. And at this point, Chris Pratt's escaped, and then the raptor gets out, and then we got about 20 minutes of like pretty fun shit of this raptor messing crap up in this house, and then Blue gets out, and Blue's fighting the raptor because they smartly realized one of the best parts of the last movie was there being like a good guy dinosaur, right, to like help our heroes. Like that was one of the most fun parts of the last movie, as cheesy as it was. Which, guess what? That actually had a reasoning for it, right? Because Chris Pratt, they were like father and son, Andy.
They showed some video clips of his research.
So, oh my God, yeah. I mean, the ending is fun, but it's just like this auction thing. The problem was it took till almost the end of the movie for me to start enjoying that finale part because of how angry the auction part made me because it is so stupid.
Yeah. I'm starting to think Chris Pratt might not be that great at what he does. Like,
I just am not buying his like youth minister vibe he's putting down. I just
don't get me started on that bullshit. Like that drives me insane.
he was just like it's like I need you when you have nothing to lose, man, and now you have stuff to lose, and
Yeah.
I don't like that.
I don't know, man.
I need
He
you with
is-
Anna Faris. I don't need you single on your own going to church. I need Anna Faris, Chris Pratt back.
I don't need you living a fulfilling life on your own. Fulfill my life.
I don't want to see someone happy.
But again,
No.
again,
Who does?
but you know who I still enjoy in this movie? Bryce Dallas Howard, who we should point out. If Cece was here, we would have already talked about this, but she's wearing not only is she wearing incredibly sensible shoes, but the movie takes pains to show us this
At least 4 or 5
at
times.
several points.
Like
But
boots,
listen.
just so everyone knows. There might as well have been arrows. Like, look, boots.
Listen, she was prepared for the jungle. I do appreciate the filmmakers, listening to. It was probably her being like, "Look, dudes, I don't want to take this shit again. I'm wearing
Yeah.
boots."
Yeah.
But
Hashtag
also, it makes
feminist.
sense. It makes sense though, right? Because the deal with the last movie was that she was at work. Like
Mm.
she was at work when it happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she was doing business stuff.
And she's at work now.
But I
You know?
I like her a lot. I mean, I haven't seen her in a ton of stuff, but I think she's a decent, fun kind of anchor for these movies. And I do actually enjoy her chemistry with Pratt, even if he's not bringing a ton to it.
Yeah, I mean, we should talk about it because we talked about it over email. But like the last movie, they kind of had this tension of I think they dated prior, like somehow they knew each other, which is what was set up in the first one, and then they obviously eventually get back together. This one, they kind of play that up in the very beginning when she's trying to convince him to come back, or at least they explain what happened in their relationship where it just kind of went to hell. And then again, like spoiler, but I don't think this is going to be a surprise to anyone. Like at the end, they end up like making out like in the last scene, but there's no sort of tension through any of the movie.
It's not
for
like
any of it.
it's not like they're even mad at each other, right? Like you'd
No.
expect. Like in the beginning, they have some banter, and they clearly like they dated and broke up. But it's not even like there's tension because they're just like, yeah, it's funny. We break each other's balls, haha. And then there's no like. You'd expect a moment where they accidentally fall on top of each other in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Or they're pressed up against each other in a tight space and then it's awkward. There is nothing. After the moment where she talks him into going, there's not a single moment of like directed like sexual tension, and then she just grabs him and kisses him at the end. Like they should have just left it out. They didn't need it. It wasn't necessary for anything.
Well, you did get that one scene in the back of the truck where they woke up and she had her hand inside his shirt while she was sleeping, and he sniffed her hair.
Well, it is Chris
Okay.
Pratt.
Fair.
Oh, God.
Fair.
I mean, I guess like one other thing I want to throw out here is the introduction of this cloned daughter that Casey mentioned earlier. And when there's this kid just basically skulking around the background. She's essentially like our exposition child. That anytime we need to learn anything about James Cromwell, they just cut to that kid sneaking around. And it's just really unfortunate because they have this character that potentially could enrich the conversation, like make this a movie more interesting than about like, hey, animals have rights too. But instead, they just kind of use her as a mouthpiece to tell you what's happening and then to motivate her final actions, which results in the title of the film
Right,
that we get from Jeff Goldblum.
So it builds up to the end, and all the dinosaurs have been released in the house. And there's a scene where all of our main characters, including the girl that are still alive, are in the house in the control room, and they're going to get poisoned. And they have the option of hitting the button to let them out. Which this led to this really funny, like existential moment for me because Bryce Dallas Howard is making the decision, and she's going to hit it at first. And Chris Pratt's like, "Listen, once you hit that button, like there's no going back. Like you cannot get this back." And she goes to hit it, and then she stops and she closes it. And the girl's like, "No!" And then all the kids in my theater were so upset when Bryce Dallas Howard did not hit this button. But I was like, "Don't hit the button, dude. They're dinosaurs."
Yeah. Fuck that thing.
But later, I went back and thought about it, and I'm like, I'm an adult. Like I can't get to that place that they're in, but I totally get it, right? Like when I was a kid, I would have been like, "Release the dinosaurs. I don't want them to
Well,
die."
here's the thing. Like when we talked about this over emails, like we know that they can recreate these dinosaurs. Like, there's no. It's not like these are like the last dinosaurs that'll ever be. Like, they can just make more.
But that's not what it's about, though. That's exactly my point, though. This movie, though, very specifically hangs its hat on giving sympathy in like an animal rights sort of way for these very specific beings, right?
And
like,
in a really hokey kind of like knee-jerk way.
But that's my point. Is like, but it's so much more laser focused on these individual things, and then because that the idea of like, and there's an interesting kernel there, right? If it's handled by better writers of the types of rights that clones would have. I mean, they're not people, so I guess there's still that disconnect. But then in the middle of
Eric.
in the middle of all this happening, they've turned their backs, and the girl, who we just found out is a clone, runs over and slaps a button and lets him out. And this leads to this montage of all the dinosaurs just roaming free on Earth, and over more bad Jeff Goldblum lines from the Senate hearing. And then we finally see like the sea monster thing that escaped in the beginning of the movie, the whatever the hell that thing's called, and not doing anything, just swimming under some surfers, I guess. But so like the setup for the third movie is that the dinosaurs are just out now, which honestly I'm like here for. I'm 100%
Yeah, I'm totally in
for
for it. Honestly, that scene that you're talking about where the whatever the fuck the swimming dinosaur is underground, like that was one of the best visuals of the entire movie. Like,
and it was in the trailer too, right? So like you saw.
Yeah.
But it's just funny, like kids cheered when she hit that button, and I'm like, what is wrong with you, man? Like, come on. But I just appreciate that like human sort of moment where like to just sit and think about what my reaction would have been as a kid, but also appreciate like I'm just not there anymore, man. I have too much of a feel of like consequences, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
And, I mean, like the other thing too is I'm just worried about what these animals are going to do on their own. They don't have a second animal to sex with, so you just wait a couple of years, they're all dead.
No, but didn't the original dinosaurs flip to like different genders?
Yeah, they reproduced on their own.
Oh, but this is only
one of every species.
One per species. That's right.
Oh, you're right.
Well,
but based on the logic of this movie, you can give a Tyrannosaurus Rex's blood to a Velociraptor, and then that works. So maybe, you know.
But in the next, but that gives you a limited scope to deal with in the next movie, right? The next movie could just be about finding each individual one, and then each one that could be a set piece. Each one.
Then you can have, then you get to have like it's almost like a Fast and Furious movie, except with dinosaurs. Oh my god!
My big thing, man. If you guys are listening, just like more dinosaurs, less other crap. I don't need the other crap. Just give me dinosaurs. I don't understand.
Yep, agree.
It was really. It just seems like they overthought it, right? Like they just had it, and then they were like, no, but it's a sequel. We need to do more, and then that led them down this just terrible road.
Geraldine Chaplin calling that kid a silly sausage was pretty great, though.
I did like. No, you know what I really liked when she yelled at her for not using the Queen's English.
Yeah.
That was great. I actually really enjoyed that, the way she sassed. I was like, I want to yell at my daughter for that.
Casey, it's VOP, not vape.
Vape. But you know what? I mean, the funny thing is, so we can get to recommendations. I still think like this movie's kind of worth watching. It's got a lot of moments. You just have to really know it's not. If you like the first one, it's not going to be as solid.
Yeah.
And I can't even say that if you hated the first one, you wouldn't like this, because Andy apparently liked this one more, and I just up is down and down is up.
Fucking, I legitimately hate your guts right now. It's tough because you're right. Like talking about recommendations, like for someone like you, Eric, and me, like I loved the first one, and I feel like I'm really gonna like the next one. So it's hard to not recommend this, even though I wasn't a big fan.
It's such a bridge movie. I mean, it's so clear they just wanted to get the dinosaurs off the island, but it didn't have to. It didn't have to be like this, Andy.
It didn't have to be a movie doing that. They could have just gotten them off the island.
Could have been an animated Saturday morning cartoon show.
Something.
Sure. There you go. Would you recommend this, Andy?
Yeah, I would, for all those reasons. It's not very good. There's some really interesting tableaus, and it's weird as shit. So yeah, I'd recommend it for that reason. But make sure you're going with friends.
Yeah, or like at home, wait for Redbox and get some beers or something.
Yeah, I'd second that, yeah.
Casey?
Yeah, I would say if you're going to watch this, wait for the rental. I don't think you need to pay movie theater prices. And ultimately, as much as I enjoyed the last one, I don't know that I felt that I needed another one. And as much as I have hopes for them doing something cool And the next movie after this, I don't know that I really care anymore.
Joe.
Yeah, I would say wait till video. And I also say if you're the type of guy that's waited a quarter of a century to just hear that Jurassic Park movie or Jurassic Park music in every movie they put out, you will be greatly disappointed in this one.
They don't really. They have one little weird changed version of it, but it doesn't hit the right note.
There's like a tinge of it,
Yeah.
and we saw this at the drive-in on Friday, and I legitimately turned to Leslie. I'm like, "Is that all I'm gonna fucking get from this thing?"
Joe's listening to the soundtrack on the way home of the first one, just sobbing.
Like a tear running down, because when Leslie and I went and saw Jurassic World in the theater when it came out, and like when that music played, like I was legit like clutching her.
No,
I was so excited. It's so iconic. Like
I'm with you. I'm with you, Joe. All right.
It's on the running mix.
I actually agree to watch. I think you can watch this, but you really gotta just adjust. Like they fuck up the middle of this movie real bad, and like really till the last 15 minutes. But there's some good shit in there. It's just weird. Yeah. I'm very angry about this movie because I feel like they had it, and then they went too far.
Yeah. They knew all the cool shots they wanted to get, and then they got those and didn't tie them together anyway.
Yeah. All right, guys, it's going to do it for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
Young Frankenstein, the scariest comedy of all time, is back with chills, thrills, and spills. Starring Gene Wilder, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, and Madeline Kahn.
No tongues.
Mel Brooks' Young Frankenstein is back. Rated PG.
Now showing at theaters near you. Check your newspaper.
Hey, I'm Tom Atkins. Thrill me. You're listening to Bloody Good Horror.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back.
Man, Tom Atkins really bringing the fire on that one.
Horror. I forgot to mute my mic for a little bit of that, so you're welcome for anybody who got to hear me take a drink. So there you go. All right, guys. 2 quick emails. One's from Mike. Mike says, just wanted to send you a quick note letting you know how much I appreciate the show. Right now, I am deployed by the Air Force to Romania from Massachusetts. Last time that I was deployed, I sent Joe a bunch of Snapchats from Bulgaria.
Oh shit! Yeah, I was gonna say we used to have a guy who would send us Snapchats, but this is the same guy. That's
there
awesome.
You go.
He's still listening.
Here I am located near the Huaybacu Forest, which is supposed to be haunted and is known as the Bermuda Triangle of Romania. I am going on a night tour of the forest soon, which will be awesome. That sounds amazing. Yeah. While I am here, I'm also going to check out some of the Vlad the Impaler related castles. I haven't bought a Bloody Good Horror shirt yet, but I would like to get one sent here and get in some spooky pictures. I just wanted to drop you guys a line and tell you again how much I enjoy the show. Great work by all. Mike from Massachusetts, Ghostface Killa on Snapchat.
Oh, wow. Right. I wonder, we should have him send his address, and we can definitely send him a shirt.
There you go.
Mike, I would also like to know what's in the gift shop of these castles, please.
I've got to imagine Romania, like, they're wanting to export our strippers and spooky Dracula stuff.
It's just the, fake wax teeth you would get in, a novelty store,
Or, a snow globe that's got, red flakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I bet it's, clear stripper heels with, snowflakes in there, spooky.
Next up, we got an email from Steven. He's writing in about Hereditary. Did you see this, Andy?
I did, yeah.
What'd you think?
I liked it quite a bit. I think I'm Team Eric on this.
Okay, good. You know whose team you don't want to be on Hereditary?
Shelton?
Team Shelton is no good. I don't even understand Team Shelton. It's not good. I don't get it. All right. Steven says, My daughter and I have a tradition of going to a horror movie every Father's Day, so we went to see Hereditary last Sunday. As we were leaving the theater, I noticed an older mother and daughter glued to their seat with deer in headlights, what the fudge just happened look on their face about the ending of the movie, and to be quite honest, I don't blame them. For some reason, A24 enjoys giving viewers of their films a trailer that you would see promoting an Insidious or Paranormal Activity or the James Wanaverse movie of the week type film. Then they turn around and give the moviegoer a completely different movie, confusing the heck out of them. Don't get me wrong, I enjoy A24 for their artistic views, great production value, and quality plots that keep the viewer guessing. I just think it is disingenuous to show a trailer of the same old, and then bait and switch to a movie they're not expecting. Why can't they have trailers that show what makes these movies special instead of fooling a moviegoer out of their money? I believe that this is not the best way to build a brand. What do you guys think? Steve from Springfield. I think there's a couple things going on here. I think one, movies don't make money if you market them as art house horror movies, which is basically what these are.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
thinking. A lot of times those trailers are not made by the same company. You hire companies that do all this marketing, and they usually cut the trailers. Any company that's going to put your movie out in theaters is going to want a trailer that markets to as many people as possible. And I see the thing about A24 trailers is I actually think if you're in any way like film literate, I think it's super obvious they're art house movies. I do agree that those cues are probably sailing over the head of like John Q moviegoer, but I feel like I watch their trailers and I'm like, oh, this is just going to be a fart smell-a-thon from start to finish.
No one talks shit about John Q.
But it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Like they're just trying something different by putting these types of movies out in theaters, but you still have to market them to a mass audience. You're not going to get away with marketing them like an art house film.
And I'm sure somewhere out there is a trailer that gives like the actual story. I haven't seen the movie, so I don't really 100% know what we're talking about. But like they market test all those trailers, so they'll show you like 3 different versions, and which one do you want to see? Well, this one that looks like just a regular movie.
Oh, trailers get audience tested to shit, and that's how you end up with trailers that explain the whole plots of movies, basically.
Yeah. Yep.
I think a big thing for this one too is Toni Collette. I talked about this in the show, but she has a huge following from just movies that are not like this, and I think a lot of people went to see this because they love her and saw her in the trailer, and were just like not in any. Definitely the couple next to me, she loved Toni Collette, was not prepared for this movie in any way.
Yeah, I can confirm that.
So there you go. That's going to do it for emails, info@bloodygoodhorror.com. Joe, what do we got on Twitter?
Yes, sir. We use 2 different hashtags over on Twitter where we are at BG Horror. First up, if you're listening to an old episode and something tickles your fancy, as it often does, you can use the hashtag BGH Classics and send it in. We got a few here this week. First one from at mi corazón, mi amor.
Mi amor.
This is Casey speaking on meeting Eric for the first time on episode 4, actually, the Horror Hound Weekend Review. Casey said, I expected a lot more size behind the bitterness.
Yeah, I mean, you become bitter by being short, Casey, so that's...
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that, but...
And to be fair, that was literally the first thing I said to Eric when we met in person the first time was, wow, you're small.
No, it was I thought you'd be taller.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one from Mi Corazón, Mi Amor. I went to a dark place. I don't even know how I got there. I mean, I know how I got there, but it's like I went off a cliff and I didn't see it coming. Can anybody guess who said that and what it's pertaining to?
Ours.
Yes, Sandy with Schnars.
Pertaining to what, though?
His wedding.
Close.
Mark's wedding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Episode 379. They look like people. Schnars. I'm getting blackout drunk at Mark's wedding.
That was the wedding where Joe literally Snapchatted the journey of putting Schnars to bed.
Oh my God! There's a video out there. I forget who compiled it together for us, but like pieced together all those. It was my finest work to date. Like just ending with like a creepy following him behind in the hallway in his hotel room. Like it looked like the end of that movie Creep. Like I was just gonna murder him and then leave him in the hallway.
Oof.
Next up from at Drop Your Linen. That's our friend Jennifer. She said, I recently watched, this is her kind of explaining. I recently watched A Cure for Wellness for the first time, so I went back and listened to an older episode of BG Horror to see what they thought of it. When Joe described the rape scene as, quote, needing to take care of his husbandly bulge, I did a spit take.
She had a really great gift to go along with that one too.
Yeah. Is that, who is that?
I think
have
that's from
no
Big
idea.
Brother. I'm not sure who it is.
It might be, yeah.
That movie is so weird. I was just thinking about that
It's
today when I saw her tweet.
real weird.
It's almost worth watching the movie just to listen to her show, I feel like.
Almost. Next up we got two from Skizbot. First one, this is Eric. Everybody in movies nowadays, especially in horror films, they have enormous fake boobs, bleached blonde hair, and the most ridiculously white teeth on earth. And then Mark replies with, yeah, fuck your teeth. And John finishes up with, unlike Eric's yellow teeth.
Yeah.
That's episode 91,
You know,
Pandorum.
I just have trouble watching like Game of Thrones or something, and the person's teeth are like jet white. It's like, dude,
I
you're
think
not.
that in every like period piece, yeah.
Yeah.
And then another one from Skizbot. He says, John, regarding the Alanis Morissette fan forums, he says, presumably they're discussing other topics too. And Eric follows up with, artists that sort of sound like Alanis Morissette. And Mark wraps up with, tips for covering your boobs with your hair. Episode 93, Paranormal Activity. I noticed that Skizbot has a real sort of knack for finding the clips where we sounded a little bit on the misogynistic side. Like it's real. It's good that he drags those up every episode.
No, well, she does that in that music video, Joe. I think that's
yeah. Oh
that's
yeah,
fair.
it's true.
You can learn a lot in a quarter of a century, Joe.
Shut your fucking mouth.
There's
All right.
literally a whole music video where she's covering her boobs with her hair. That's the whole plot of the music video.
Thank you. All right.
There
And
you
last one from @JessieLynn35. She says, this is Eric starts off with, I am here tonight with my friends to talk about a movie called The Darkness. And then I reply, oof, coworkers, not friends. Eric.
Whoa. Take it easy, buddy. Coworkers.
That was episode 378, which I'm not sure what movie that was, but
Okay.
there you go.
Well,
and then we also use every week we post up and let you chime in with questions. We use the hashtag AskBGH. First up from @DeadAirJeff. This is from the other night. He says, so I'm sure the BGH crew is already aware of this product since Eric BGH loves that Limp Bizkit. How many bottles are y'all buying? And then it's this article, and somebody did post this up in Slack too, but apparently they're making hot dog water, which is
It's
like
a-
bottled water with a hot dog.
It's
It's supposed to like
artist.
go ahead.
It's like an artist thing. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
what if I put a hot dog in, it's like that kind of thing.
I guess it's selling for like $38 a bottle.
I'll allow it.
Next up, and this is gonna be one of the more interesting ones. @Drop Your Linen, she chimes in with an Ask BGH. Also, she says, "Can you play Kiss, Marry, Kill with the dinosaur characters? Leave out the baby one though, if there are any. That would make it weird."
No, thank you.
Mary Ethel Hinkelman Phillips.
Oh,
Who's
you got
that?
names.
Is that the grandmother?
I think so. Yes, that's the grandmother. Yeah. Because she'll leave all my pearls to me when she goes extinct. Kill Earl Sinclair, because you got to. And then let's go ahead and kiss Fran, because that'd be weird.
That's not bad actually. That seems pretty well reasoned out. Next up from @Skizbot, I heard Casey mention getting a cabin in Hocking Hills, Ohio. Something my girlfriend and I have been wanting to do. Where's your favorite vacation destination, and do you have a favorite vacation story? Anybody?
Well, I love me some central Wisconsin this time of year, and I'm about to enjoy that in T-4 days. So I'm sure I'll have some stories then.
You're heading out, huh? There's a handful of new breweries up there that I don't know if you have partaken in that I would have.
Ooh, I might need a list from you.
I like
Yeah.
a good I like a good quiet lake town. Like
Well, that's exactly where I'm going, Eric.
Yeah, like just like a nice earthy coffee shop in the middle of town, like one strip in the middle of town with like a couple of mom and pop businesses, and the rest is just open country.
Yeah, kind of like Gilmore Girls, but further from the city.
Sure, yeah.
Right, Casey.
I enjoy a good cabin in the woods with lots of good friends.
Mm.
Doesn't necessarily matter where it is.
I obviously I'm a huge Disney World fan, but that aside, Bar Harbor, Maine is like my favorite place in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you go spend a week up there. You do exactly what we've kind of talked about. Like,
or Wells is nice too.
Yeah, I just like Bar Harbor because it's like the very end. You've got Arcadia there. Like you can just stroll in and see like the most amazing like national park. Every like small shitty restaurant has like amazing beer on tap. Like I remember even like the Chinese takeout place had like Bar Harbor ale on tap. Like just the best. The place is awesome. All right, last one from @RealJoeScar. He asks, which species of dinosaur would be the most generous lover?
Dilophosaurus, because it's a squirter.
Oh!
Wow.
Yikes. Did you know this question prior, or was that just like queued up in your head?
I saw it about 5 minutes ago.
I'm not going to answer that question, but it did remind me that my favorite dinosaur when I was a kid is the little guy that kind of looks like a turtle that's got like the spike club on his tail.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Ankylosaurus?
He was always one of my favorites.
That was my favorite, because he's like the underdog. He's the little guy.
Right. He's just trying to live. All these fuckers are trying to eat it.
And you mess with him, you get the spiky tail,
You get the horn.
Right. The spiky tail horn.
That is it for tweets.
Love it. We're actually out of time tonight, even though the review went super long, so there you go.
Yeah.
info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. We're on Twitter @BGHorror. And Patreon, patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. You can check out a live stream of this show every week. You can check out our Slack, which is hopping daily with our fans chatting about stuff. Really funny interaction today where I was in the sports channel talking about World Cup stuff with some of our international listeners, and then suddenly you just see Joe left this channel. Like in the middle of our conversation.
I need to check out for the next couple of weeks. Like I appreciate what you guys are doing. I can't stand the quote unquote sport.
I just love that it tells you when you leave a channel, so it's this really passive aggressive thing.
It is really dickish, like. And the fun that we can actually turn that setting off, but I kind of love it. Like,
it's funny. It's funny. It's good comedy. Made me laugh. So here's our plans for the next 2 weeks. Next week off for the 4th of July. So savor this episode. Listen to it twice. Then we're coming back, guys, with the first Purge.
Ooh.
The first time they purged. We're gonna see a movie about it.
Pretty cool.
And we're gonna review it. So there you go. That's going to do it for this week. Hope you enjoyed our review of Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. We'll talk to you next week. 2 weeks.
Farewell.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye.